Among those taking part in Boston's celebration of Martin Luther King Day are the young classical musicians in Project STEP. They'll be performing at multiple locations, including the Museum of Fine Arts and Hibernian Hall in Dudley Square. To tell us about the events and the musicians is the Executive Director of Project STEP, Gabriella Sanna. Thank you very much for being with us, Gabriella.
Thank you very much for having me here today.
First of all, talk about the people who make this program possible, or the institutions that do that.
So Project STEP was founded by three main partners: the Boston Symphony Orchestra, the New England Conservatory, and Boston University. And since then, these three partners have been, relevant pillars to keep the program going. We rely almost exclusively on gifts from individuals and from foundations, and that's what keeps the program alive.
Well, as some of these students in Project STEP get older, they end up at the conservatory, maybe with a symphony orchestra somewhere, and some do other things. So talk about what these students get out of this program.
Right. So it is not a music appreciation program. We begin with an introductory program, and that's our recruiting pool, and that is the focus program. And in fact, we are accepting applications. So right now, we accept pretty much any student from communities of color who are in kindergarten, and then they are exposed to an introductory music class, and then after that, depending on the talent, we invite them to be part of the core program. Then once they get into the core program, they training that our students get is really in-depth, and it ranges from private lessons, orchestra classes, chamber music, theory, everything that a student needs to become accomplished. When they get to high school and they can choose, they are ready to take college auditions or conservatory auditions and get in. We are really proud to have 100% of our students going on to conservatories or college. Up to this point, in 35 years of operations, 62% of our graduates have made a career in music. And so that's a great accomplishment. And, students at that point, with the discipline, the confidence, the self-esteem, the problem-solving skills that they have acquired through a really long program, because we start them in kindergarten and we keep them until they graduate in high school. So it's over 12 years training. With all those skills, they are certainly equipped to become successful and productive for the rest of their life.
Explain the self-esteem. What brings that about, just playing a musical instrument?
Well, first of all, mastering an instrument, it's very difficult. So what we do here, we train students in string instruments, that is violin, viola, cello, and double bass. And string instruments per se are hard. Getting to the level of mastery, of being able to perform, and our students perform a lot, and I'll give you an example real soon, but being able to master a piece and perform in front of an audience. And, it's great practice for life, because you have to react real fast. You make a mistake and you're faced with the decision right on the spot, and you have to make the right one. So this really builds your self-confidence, because obviously after doing it so much, they become really good at it. And certainly, it's an accomplishment that it's not comparable to anything else.
Because what people don't see is that learning means a certain amount of drudgery. You're trying to play a C major scale. It doesn't sound good. You try it again the next day. It doesn't sound as bad. And then it just builds and builds.
Correct. And it's, the persistence that it takes to get to that level of mastery. That is what really builds skills. As I said, our kids are very busy. We have coming up the MLK Celebration, and our students will appear in 4 different shows this Monday. We have a really busy day ahead of us. They will appear at the MLK breakfast in the morning, and then we have 2 shows at the Museum of Fine Arts.
By the way, it's going to be a free admission at the museum.
The museum is free admission, correct. And then we'll have our very own celebration that is being held at the Hibernian Hall, and that too is a free event. In fact, I am happy to say that it's almost sold out. So
Oh, what's interesting about that event is that you're going to have some performance and some discussion too.
Correct. We have the performances, we have a panel discussion among musicians and other people of color who explain who will talk about what it means to be a musician of color. And we'll talk about the lessons learned from Dr. King. And then we'll have some students participating in the panel. And we have students who have written some essays, and they will read them at the event. And we'll show some art that our students have submitted. And of course, performances.
This has been the news, and we're talking with Gabriella Sanna of Project STEP. Gabriella, talk about what that means to these young people about being a musician of color, because when people hear classical, they think of Beethoven, Brahms, and Bach, but this is music that needs to be in touch with the traditional and popular idioms as well, doesn't it?
Well, I want to say that there are barriers that need to be eliminated, and traditionally classical music is not part of the culture of communities of color. However, at this point in time, in a city that is so multicultural, when we take kids at a young age and we expose them to this kind of music, it becomes part of their language as well, and we make a tangible effort to put in front of them musicians of color who have made it, who have become professionals and can serve as an example, serve as an inspiration for these kids, and give them a goal.
And what about the people who don't become musicians but become something else? How does music help with that?
Music helps in everything. Music is the food for our soul. The skills that you learn from learning music apply to a lot of other disciplines. It is proven, there is plenty of data from research that shows that students who take music instruction, they do better in academics. They become more disciplined. They build self-confidence, they learn to solve problems, they develop critical thinking. All this, you need it in life, no matter what. And on top of that, if our students don't become professional musicians, that is fine. They will be the future educated audience. They will be educators. They will be administrators. We need musicians. Music can always be part of your life, even if you're not necessarily on the stage.
It can even be in your earbuds while you're performing surgery.
Yeah.
We should mention, if people want to find out more about this program, especially to get their kids involved, we could mention that website one more time?
Yes, projectstep.org is our website. We always welcome visitors. People can call us, and we invite them to show them around and come and visit the program in action. We are at Symphony Hall in the basement every Saturday, the full day, and that's where our kids get all their instruction.
Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for having me here.
Gabriella Sanna from Project STEP.